Do government policies impact where investors put their money? And are investors welcome again in Victoria now with our friends Dan Andrew here resigning? So guys, today there's a couple of things we want to kind of unpack here on that. So I guess firstly, do investors get scared off with policy change? And I guess to put some things in perspective, we need to understand, I guess, how impactful investor interest can be, whether people get into a market or they look to exit a market. So got a good article here in terms of, if we have a look at, here we go, realestate.com, Victoria ranked as the worst state to be a property investor, as one in 4 Melbourne landlords sell home in the past year. So it says here essentially up to 38% of investors are planning to sell their investment property in Victoria over the next 12 months. And if you're not, I guess, up to date with some of the changes in the Victoria region, you know, there's been new land tax changes introduced in the residential and the commercial setting. There's been talks of rent capping, and just as of recently as a couple of weeks ago, they've now put rental bidding, I guess, an end to rental bidding. So been a few things that are scaring off investors. And I guess even on top of that, you've had really long lockdowns in Melbourne, which put off investors and also put off people wanting to live there. And then to compound that, you also traditionally get really weak yields in the Melbourne market. So again, investors are chasing returns, particularly when it comes to making their payments. We've got rising interest rate environment at the moment. If I'm an investor, I'm not really interested in picking up a 3 or 4 or even a 5, just a 5% rental yield in the Victorian market, when we've got these really tight policies and regulations in place, and I can go interstate and chase better rental yields as well as those growth factors. So that's a big one. But more in line with that, we need to understand that they have a huge shift in terms of an impact for an investor. If 1 in every 3 or 4 properties, it's around 30% of properties, are investor owned, those kind of decisions are going to impact where investors gravitate to. Now, I guess compounding that underlying factor of investors wanting to pour in to that Melbourne market is, the Melbourne market has been a market that has really been historically heavily driven by international migration from a labour point, and also international migration in terms of international students coming in. Now, we saw that drop off obviously during COVID period times, and that's why Victoria had the worst vacancy rates in comparison to all parts of the country, and that has slowly closed the gap. Victoria has still got the highest, but it is still tight. It's a very tight market. It's about a 1% or 1.1% vacancy rate down in Victoria now. If that migration starts to return to Victoria, and that migration will then start to push or put pressure on the rental pricing, because Victoria, in comparison to other states across the country, is highly affordable in comparison to, say, your Sydney market or your Perth market and even your Brisbane market. So rents are still quite strong. But if that rental pressure starts to come up, these policy changes will start to look less cumbersome to some investors, who will then start to see Victoria as an opportunity. But as it sits today, absolutely, those policy changes are scaring off investors. And I guess at an advisory level, there's basically every client we work with requests to avoid purchasing in Victoria if they already have a property in Victoria. And whether it be personal preference or what they're reading in the news, even interstate investors have a request that they look to avoid Victoria. So until that market sentiment changes a little bit, and again, there's more potential rental pressure causing, I guess, demand growth in that Victoria region, we may still see that be pushed to the side. My best bet would be, I think we'll start to see Victoria really start to catch up potentially next spring season, but we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Guys, if you liked today's video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like I mentioned, my name's Julian. I'm the head of strategy here at Ripehouse Advisory. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, please make sure you follow me over there. We'll be sharing some more data reports coming your way over the next few weeks. And we also have a really, really big project being released in just a few weeks. I can't wait to release that one, but look forward to speaking to you on the next one. Bye for now.